Should you step in when you see a woman being confronted in a hostile way by a man? The number's 0207 862 2222. Maybe you've done exactly that, or maybe it happened to you and nobody did step in. The reason we're asking is that the Labour MP Stella Creasy praised bystanders who stopped a man who was, and I quote, hassling her on the London Underground. And she said, "Thank you from the bottom of my heart." She didn't provide any more details in her social media post other than to suggest that it might well turn into a police matter. And we don't know whether it was men or women who rushed to her defence. But I wonder whether you think there is a duty to intervene when a woman's threatened or pestered or leered at. Do you think maybe men in particular should step up and come to her aid? Let me go to James first on this. What do you think?
I mean, I personally would, but I'm very old-fashioned, like the whole male-female kind of thing. I think if I saw a woman being hassled by a bloke, I would definitely step in, but I don't think every man would feel the same necessity to do so, because it depends on your character as well. Mm-hmm. I just wouldn't be able to live with myself. Also, I've got a wife and a young daughter. I'd want to know that if my daughter was, of an age where she was on her own somewhere, that someone would step in for her as well.
Let me ask David.
All of that, but, and there is a but, I think, here, you don't know these days whether getting involved in somebody else's violence will lead directly to violence against you. True. And I think that these decisions are usually, you used an interesting phrase, James. It depends on your personality, your character, because I think these decisions are often impulse decisions. I think almost everybody would say it is right to step in, but not everybody in that split second would necessarily do so, even if afterwards they felt great shame for not having done so. Because with fight or flight, sometimes it kicks in and you don't know whether you're going to be thinking about protecting somebody or protecting yourself by not intervening.
That's true, and it's the whole have a go hero thing where you just think, and these days you can't help thinking, what if they have a knife?
Yeah.
What if they have a knife?
Yes.
Is he really hurting this woman? No, he's just saying something abusive or horrible or humiliating. She's not going to die. And if I intervene, who knows what could happen? It could escalate it. But I suppose another aspect of this, Carrie, is that in this era of feminism, shouldn't it equally well be women who intervene, not just sit there looking for a knight in shining armour that happens to be male to come along?
And I think there's plenty of women that would intervene, actually. I think the most important thing is to ask, is to say, are you okay? Do you need help?
Yeah.
Right.
Because then it's up to whoever is being harassed to say, actually, I'm fine here, or yes, please, thank you. I think just asking that simple question goes a long way. But yes,
it takes guts, though, doesn't it? Because you're just worried that the person.
There are women that have got guts. I'm someone who
Yes.
steps in for my friends the whole time. If it's verbal, I'm right there. If it's violence, 100% no. But I think there are women who would step up, and I think there are also men who would be so terrified they couldn't. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, of course it's okay.
I mean, we've got a message on Facebook from Paul. Paul says, I saw a couple having a heated argument as I was leaving the train station. The man was being aggressive, so I stepped in and I stopped him. They ended up walking off together as if nothing had happened. Not a single word of thanks. Well, that's what people always say about a domestic, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
In a domestic, you never do know the background. You never know what's going on. And it's usually, in the end, I mean, I know it's a cliche, but it's usually the woman saying, he's all right, leave him alone, officer, isn't it? He's fine, as they go home together. And you just think, oh, my gosh, I should have kept out of it. But I suppose we're not talking about a domestic here. We're talking about somebody being hassled on a tube by strangers. It's not quite the same thing, is it?
I don't think it is the same thing. I think that with a domestic, you're absolutely right, because sometimes people are not at all grateful for you stepping into their private individual rows that they've happened to take out of the house and into public. But if it is somebody who it's clear, as Carrie says, so are you all right? And if the answer is no, then that's not a domestic. That's not somebody they know and they trust simply acting out a part of their relationship, which to you might be horrifying, but to them is normal. That's somebody in need of help.
I think you're absolutely right, though, about the whole fight or flight thing that kicks in. Because whenever I've got involved, afterwards, I just think, why? What on earth?
What happened to me?
Why did I do that? But sometimes you've said it, you can't help it.
Absolutely,
it just comes out.
And I did. It wasn't that long ago on the tube, because I'm often on the tube, and I said something like, leave her alone. No, don't speak to her like that. And afterwards, I thought, God, what the heck did I? Like, what would I do? I can't handle myself in a fight or something. If I got punched, Well, they looked really annoyed and kind of like, turned on me, and it sort of took the heat out of
Both
it a
of
little.
them looked annoyed.
Well, he looked annoyed. I'm not sure what she looked, but I don't even know what was I even doing. I obviously felt I didn't like the tone of his voice. I just didn't like the whole thing. It just seemed all wrong.
But there is also a group mentality on trains, including the Tube, in that sometimes there's that look between like, do we intervene?
Yes.
And I think that's the power of community, is that a whole group of people can say, hey, this needs to stop.
The power of the collective.
The power of the
one
collective.
goes,
that is a great
others
thing.
will go with them.
But I think the key thing is what you said, is to go up to that person and say, do you need some help? Because I remember when I was a young boy, I remember going somewhere with my dad, and there was an argument between this man and a lady, and he was being quite physical with her, and my dad grabbed the man, at which point the woman turned on my dad.
Right, exactly.
So I do think you need to go up to the person and say, do you need help? If they say yes, then hopefully intervene. But there's nothing wrong with not intervening as well, because not everyone is the same.
You're quite right. Let's go to Janice in Northamptonshire. Hi, Janice. Has this happened to you?
Well, it's not as bad as that, I don't think. I feel quite nervous about being on the show, to be fair.
Oh, it's nice to have you. Don't be nervous.
What it is, I was in Cardiff at the Sting concert 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
All right. It's quite a long story, so I'll try and cut it short. And there's some ladies dancing in the corner, obviously drunk. One of them obviously didn't like me. Just quite a long story. I don't want to get into it too much. And she was quite heavy and what have you, being a bit rude. And then standing nearby was a young security guard who said, I think he did nothing, just absolutely fine, didn't ask for any help. So anyway, then watching Sting, then a man who I didn't know they were all together, he came over and was quite harassing as well. The young security guard had done nothing. I've said nothing or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? I'm just standing there. Then all of a sudden, from behind me, an older security guard took my arm and said, can you come back here with me a minute, please? And I said, why? He said, because I've had 10 complaints about you. I said, I beg your pardon. I said, I haven't moved. I hadn't moved. And the young security guard said nothing. He was just standing a foot away. And at that point, when I turned back to watch the Sting concert, because I'm not going to go back to talk to a security guard, I stood to face the Sting concert and stuff. Then I saw this young security guard standing right in front of my face and said to me, you either leave under your own steam or I'm going to escort you off the premises.
Wow.
Four strangers who I had never, ever met in my life. Four strangers stepped right in. Two women hugged me and said, she's not going anywhere. She hasn't done anything. What are you doing? And I mean, I was shocked, because these four, I never met them in my life. And then one of the women said, don't worry, I've got it all on video. And
wow, that's fantastic.
Everything that is happening around me, I could not believe it. Anyway, I spoke to my daughter that night. I mean, I went with a friend anyway, and I felt quite vulnerable going home because we don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
They obviously didn't take a liking to me because they were drunk. So anyway, so I spoke to my daughter that night. She said, you need to ring the people who set up the concert, which I did. I rang on the Monday because I wasn't at first. Yeah. I rang on the Monday and I told them what had gone on. They quite surprised as well, but I haven't heard anything since. And it's about a month ago. And
this is an amazing story, because when you were talking about it, when you said he was going to, escort you out and told you to leave,
nice.
I didn't think that. I thought that I was going to be thinking, I wonder what Janice did. She's phoning me, but can I believe her story? Because I don't know what she did that really annoyed everybody. Yes. And then it turns out she did absolutely nothing at all. And these wonderful people filmed her and supported her, and that's brilliant, Janice. Excellent. Thank you so much. Really good to hear from you. Let's talk to Craig in Brighton. Oh, Craig, you did intervene. Tell us what happened.
Well, I was just at a shopping market and I saw this chap assaulting his lady. And I'm ex-army, right, and I'm also a Cockney, and Cockneys have strict regulations and rules about how you treat women.
Yes.
Yeah. So I stopped her and I attended to the lady, and she said, only if I knew how to stop it. And then I decided, because I'm ex-army and I train in that stuff, so I did a voluntary defence course for women. And so all they had to pay for was the rent of the building. I didn't charge them for my services. And all the ladies that I have helped have never been assaulted again.
Well, that is fantastic news.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
And I bet lots of them felt, just as I said, I couldn't possibly handle myself in a fight. But once you've taught them the basics, they feel much more confident. And I suppose it's a completely different feeling if somebody's hostile to you when you've got the preparation from a cause.
I do wonder, actually, Vanessa, whether then when your fight or flight kicks in, as David was talking about, I wonder if you've done that self-defence, whether the right reaction comes up.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet. Well, at least you've done all you can to empower yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
Craig, thank you very much. And also thanks for what you did. Thank you for all your calls on that.